Ooh, baby. Ha. One of these days I'll get that on tune. Our mood master, Mr. Anthony Garcia, is the one who lets me know that I would probably do better to talk that into rather than sing it, but I get the feeling, I get the spirit. That's a great little song. No stopping us now. We're on the case for truth and justice with the right information to help improve the situation. You're listening to Empire Talks Back. I'm Wallace Allen. We're here to stimulate your brain, touch your heart. Empire Talks Back is brought to you by Southern California Edison. If you see a downed power line, do not approach or touch that line or anyone or anything in contact with that line. Call 911 immediately. You never know when the winds are going to blow and put you in a situation where those power lines are down. Remember, don't touch them. They will harm you. I promise. Empire Talks Back is also brought to you by West Side Story Newspaper. I'd like to introduce our people in here today. We've got Mr. Celeste King IV. How you doing, Celeste?
I'm fine. Good morning.
Good morning. And have you changed the world this week? Done anything special?
I was fortunate enough to be able to participate in a press conference yesterday.
Oh yeah, we know how exclusive those are. They never occur but once.
Well, this one was kind of unusual because of the fact that it seems to be that Broadway Federal Bank has an onslaught against churches in the minority community, and is actually through predatory lending practices and then pursuing some illegal actions. Is foreclosing, or is...
Oh, that line, that's enough Halloween. We got to talk about that for sure. You mean the banks are acting up?
Oh, not only acting up, but they're acting up on the churches. It seems to me.
Not the churches.
I got an entire expose right here.
Oh my goodness. Andrew Valles here to my right. I ask a simple question. He pulls out a catalog. What are you talking about? What do you have to say about this?
Every single thing that Celeste is saying is exactly right, and I'm certain Jamal and myself will be able to elucidate some other juicy facts.
Elucidate. Did you get that one, Anthony? I didn't hear any music on that.
Yeah, but that's like the chicks in the mail.
You got our mood master. You got to step up, brother.
We got to do some elucidation.
Yeah, we got to get some elucidating done back there.
Some elucidation with some rumination, with some illumination.
And Jamal Lilly, how are you, my friend?
I'm doing very well, sir.
Very well. Well, you see, we've been handed a super hot topic. Mr. Evans is on the line with some other people, but Mr. Evans, give us a hello. Mr.
Nation.
My goodness, these banks don't seem to have any friends here this morning. Boy, I wish we could talk about a little simple something, maybe, like slavery.
On Sundays.
Hey, listen, folks, we do have a guest. Our guest this morning is Ann Rogan. Lita, you're on line 2, right? Okay, and could I have you give us a little background? That is Ann Rogan on line 3, correct? Okay, so we have Ms. Rogan, we have Ms. Lita Pazant, we have Mr. Evans. Folks, I want you to understand we're going to get into this banking circumstance very shortly, but before we do that, we want to finish up a little conversation about our California election process. Last week we talked about the propositions. We spoke at length about most of them, and Prop 35 caught a little attention in that it's the one that has to do with sex predators, with human trafficking. Some of us were concerned, I particularly, as to what could happen to a journalist who simply wanted to investigate what may be going on to statistically find out what our issues are. But I'd note that you probably will end up with the CIA or FBI following you around if you get to caught seeking information about those kind of statistics. But Ms. Lita, could you introduce our guests, and Ms. Rogan, welcome to the show. Lita? And when will they have their public hanging? And that ticks me off. I hate to interrupt you, Ms. Leader. I hate to interrupt you, but it ticks me off because I just voted, you know, and I voted against the death penalty, but now you're giving me a reason again to want to run back and maybe erase that vote. This is ridiculous. Please, could we have Miss Ann? Could you join us? Go on, Miss Leader. I'm sorry. So are we likening, no, Ms. Leader, because you just brought up, you know, the Emancipation Proclamation aspect of this. Is Prop 35 in that line? Is that what you're saying? Is this going to stop some of that labor? Is it going to stop some of that labor slavery you're talking about? Understand that, Ms. Leader. We certainly don't want to have people thinking that by voting for third party. Ms. Leader, please. Ms. Leader. Ms. Leader. Are we wanting to have people think that Prop 35 is going to end that level of slavery?
It still doesn't answer the question.
That doesn't answer my question, Ms. Leader. Ms. Leader, let's let Ann talk, because you and I, we need to, you know, we have this natural thing, that's all. And so maybe
Yeah.
I know that you'll, you know, that you make a great cake, but we're not getting ready to eat a cake here. This is
really like
pretty.
to hear what
We
Miss
need to
Ann
delineate here what's going on with Prop 35. Okay, Miss Ann, please. Thank you. All right. Wait a minute. Are you suggesting then that as we see these kids outside selling candy, we should call the police, maybe shelter that child, investigate what's going on with them? Is it that common? Are they that blatant? Yes, but is Is that illegal? Should we call the police? That's what I'm asking you. Philosophically, I can agree that that's probably not right, but should we call the police when we see kids out there in front of the stores selling candy, in front of a store that's selling candy in itself? Because I don't understand what you're saying there. And when these kids are knocking on doors, selling subscriptions, things of that sort, we should call the police. Is that what you're saying?
I personally can't believe my ears. The reason I can say this with some authorities because I used to be one of those kids that sold candy door to door, going to other neighborhoods in order to raise money for my school. So if I'm understanding the premise of this, you're saying, okay, if little Andrew is out there and he's selling candy to raise money to go on field trips that better his education, that we should call the cops?
How do we delineate? How do we tell the difference?
Neighbor.
Okay,
what she said.
Okay,
she said,
Jamal is going to square us up on what she said. Jamal, what did she say?
What she said basically is check and see if the child is familiar with the surroundings that they're in. If they're selling for their school, they certainly know what the name of the school is. They certainly know some street names around the neighborhood. They certainly know where they are. Ask them a couple questions to indicate whether or not they know where they are. If they don't, then that's a telltale sign that they might be out there as part of a human trafficking scheme.
Maybe we could pull out our cell phone,
use a little
ask the
common
kid
sense,
if he needs any help.
screen the situation. If it seems called for, then take further action. That's what she's saying.
We have child labor laws.
We're not getting into whether we should vote for the thing. We're just saying, clarifying what her premise is.
Right. Oh, please.
That's true. That's
Well,
true.
there certainly is an accusation, and he's going to court for that. I don't know if he's been proven guilty of that yet. He has been proven guilty. Okay. When is his public hanging? Yeah, that's. Let's do this. We need to take a very short break, Ms. Rogan. What we'll do, upon coming back, we'll get to hear about your niece and the intense need for us to consider voting for Prop 35, based on what you've got to say. This is Empire Talks Back. I'm Wallace Allen. Stick around, folks. It is not going to get any, less interesting. Thank you. Empire Talks Back. See you in a sec. Thank you.
Until I hear the dealing, somebody's got to deal with what are the current sentences and what are they talking about increasing them to, and how is this going to cause, prosecution to increase?
Basically, what she's saying is,
It's not about what she's saying. It's about how is this going to create prosecution increases, and what is the difference between
It's going
current
to increase
sentences
prison terms for
and
human traffickers. I don't know how much.
it doesn't say anything.
It doesn't give anything
It
specific.
doesn't give me anything. I need to know
what
that.
you have to do is read the proposed text
No,
of the
I
law
want her
change.
to tell.
And then you'll see what it says.
I want her
If
to
you
tell.
read, well, I'm trying to tell you.
I'm opposed to increasing any sentences.
Well, the other thing too is where are you going to house all these people?
I am too.
We're
man.
going to build more
But-
prisons.
But what I'm saying is, what
That's what
she's
they
really
do,
saying
huh?
as her
More prisons.
premise is that you need to be more vigilant in being your brother and sister's keeper. So then, that is a valid thing to promote. But if you're going to take it to the level of we need to increase sentencing and we need to increase purview of police in the eye of the sky, all of that, well, it does do this. You don't need to change the laws to be a better keeper of your brother and sister.
Agreed.
Okay? So it should be talked about. Because if it is something that we can do to intervene, we should do it.
Well, see, increasing penalties isn't in itself a fantasy.
No argument.
Just makes you smarter.
Get a number.
Oh, watch it now.
See why you
See, we.
are not a recording.
This is Empire Talks Back. I'm Wallace Allen. We're here on the case for truth and justice. we're laughing and having a good time because we have someone here who thinks that he's Curtis Mayfield, and we're willing to let him do a little of that, and hopefully it doesn't offend any of you real fans of Curtis. We have on the phones with us Miss Ann Rogan. She's talking with us about the important aspect of human trafficking, the effects that it has on our young people as the targets of such. And of course there's other levels of human trafficking. We are talking about this because there is a proposition on the California ballot, Prop 35, Stop Human Trafficking in California. One of the issues that we have, that I have, Ann, is that, you know, I understand that we write a lot of new laws in California, and a lot of our legislative people think that that is, you know, that's their job to write new law. I'm convinced that if we were to enforce the laws that we have, we would be in probably good enough shape not to have this problem here. I note that the people that are wanting to increase the sentences, increase the push on this, are people that are making money on it, and nothing wrong with that. That's their job. I'm questioning whether they're doing a good enough job right now with the money that they have. What are some of the benefits that you would see in the passing of Prop 35, Ms. Rogan? What would it increase their penalties to, their terms to? Okay. But 15 minimum. That's, where would that? Yeah.
Where's that money come from?
Where would that money come from?
Yeah.
If they can.
We've tried
But
that before.
how you gonna get? How you gonna? Yeah, but how are you gonna get?
Let's let her finish, and you know, because she's not able to tell us how they get the money. We got people that are making millions of dollars for lobbyists in the state that can't tell us where the money's coming from. Ideally, but then when they confiscate the drug dealer's house, I end up seeing the sheriff living in it for a few minutes, you know, so that becomes an issue. Where does that go? Well, I'm understanding the sheriff and whoever they rent the house to when they secure it are supposed to give that to the victim. I'm just... I wasn't talking about your sheriff, Celeste, or mine, but you know,
if I
think more about Arizona. Yeah, I do note that we're talking about trafficking, so we are talking about people who are making money on this as well as ruining lives, and yes.
In clear view of all of this, the DEA, the ATF, and the Treasury Department, they've been doing this for years in other methods, and it does not work out well. The reason it doesn't work out well is, okay, let's take for example, they're living in a home, the home gets seized. Okay, well, it's going to cost money. Hopefully they didn't do damage. They weren't also cooking up meth in the place. It's going to cost money to clean it up. It's going to cost money to advertise. It's going to cost additional money in which to promote the sale of the blasted thing, and then you're barely going to break even. You want an example of that? Talk to the IRS. It does not end well. So how is this going to get paid for? And then where are you going to house all these people when we're trying to get people out of prison?
I think she spoke to a solution at the very beginning, other than the passing of this.
We're talking.
Yeah, I think we should incite to go back to the death penalty. It makes it a lot easier for some of these guys. But then that's not true. No, the subject.
you know, having a lot of experience with the criminal element, I find that increasing penalties also increases the level of sophistication in the commission of the crime. I also find that increasing penalties does not increase the prosecution level of crimes. And if we're talking about situations where trafficking has become extremely rampant, what we need to be talking about is how do we in fact increase the prosecution level and the apprehension of these people to deter it. Not so much, you know, the fact that we're going to give you life if we catch you, but the reality is that if we don't increase the ability to apprehend, none of it means anything.
There's also a long-term effect, and long-term effect is you're saying you want to have these people treated as sex offenders. All right, let's look at that. In California, if you are a registered sex offender, you are a registered sex offender for life. Now, what happens when that person does become rehabilitated in that situation? And
or if perchance they were wrongly identified.
Right, and what's going to be the rollback for that? And you're giving them a new life sentence. You're just not killing them. But what you are doing is you're now putting that on the back of society to deal with.
Ms. Rogan?
You can't piss in the sidewalk as a sex offender the rest of your life.
Please.
But
That's the exact reason.
sure,
What streets again?
University of.
Okay.
The question is, how does this
Okay,
protect
okay.
children?
All right, give me control of that thing up there for a second. I can appreciate your passion. That's exactly why we want you here, because your passion is a passion that needs to be passed on. Once again, it needs to be passed on. But you know, as you do it, you've got to tell people something that they can do. Your recommendation includes voting yes on Prop 35. Is that correct? Okay. Miss Lita, you had something you wanted to... How old is your niece? What occurred with her? Okay, you're right. Okay, let's go and that's a terrible situation, and it's got her in prison, right? Okay, now, well, he's dead. That's a pleasant.
Prosecution.
They didn't deal with him, Howard. We can definitely understand that the police were totally out of line. Our position now is to find out who was in line, if anyone. Well, so the remedy for that police situation, this remedy we're suggesting now doesn't change that, because if the police don't arrest him and prosecute him, it doesn't do any good about what his sentence is. Let's go back to how this child at 11 was made available to a pimp. What did we do? Right. Okay. and it goes back. It appears to me that it's going to go back again to what happens to the peripheral, from the peripheral family with the community, that tribe that's raising the child. We all have to pay more attention, and we do have to stick our nose in other people's business and understand that their business will become our business at some point. If they do good, we'll benefit. If they do bad, we'll all be penalized. So that I can understand your passion is probably got a little bit of feeling or tinge of guilt there. And we all, of course, and that's what we should all feel. Please, that's what we should all feel when we see something take place that we can do something about. And I go back to the beginning of the conversation where we talked about young people being in situations where adults who have a feeling of suspicion or concern should express that, should ask the question, should ask the child, should provide a phone number, and see if indeed that child has the proper surroundings, the proper people around him, and not be afraid to call the police, not be afraid to follow someone home. And I don't know what else we can do at some point without having a little vigilante in us. And I'm not suggesting that we need to do that. But as we look at the problems and find that the police can't or won't, the prosecutors can't or won't, and we want to finally try to put it on the judges, who are they going to talk to if nobody's been arrested and brought to the case? I'm very sorry about your niece, and I'm very sorry that we as a people haven't stepped up more. But I'm still stuck in what should we do about Prop 35 so that it doesn't make us feel like, the problem's been handled. Miss Lita, please. Miss Lita, let me, Miss Ann, ask your question, and then Miss Lita, yours, please. No, I thought you had a question. Miss Lita, what is your question? If they get caught, prosecuted, and presented to the judge. Them same mamas and daddies and uncles who's getting that money from those kids need to straighten the hell up, because if they know it and see it, they need to do something about it.
Where are the parents?
Where are the parents? Where are the aunts and the uncles and the cousins? And who is having sex with these young girls? Their ass should be in jail too. Now, what do we do about that?
It's all about prosecution.
It's about. Well, it's not just about prosecution.
It's about apprehension.
It's about people. It's about aunts and uncles and brothers and dads doing something.
Where are the parents?
Bring your ass around my house talking that crap.
And also it's about the environment.
I got something for you.
Yeah.
And it don't have to be my house.
Well, let's frame the debate again. The bottom line is we have not established that voting for this proposition will, in fact, improve the problem. What we're hearing is that it will increase sentencing. What we're doing then is we're transferring from one type of human trafficking to another type of human trafficking. And that's not seeming to be something that is going to assist in arresting the problem. The problem is not putting more people in jail or not putting more people in jail. The problem is what Wallace has just said here. People being more vigilant about the situation. The bottom line for me is, if I'm looking at this and I'm reading the actual text of the law as it's supposed to be implemented, I'm seeing nothing to increase enforcement. I'm seeing nothing.
It's a false sense of security.
Right. I'm seeing nothing that's going to actually allow the people that are charged with enforcing the new stiffer penalties with the ability to discern whether or not a sentence is called for, with the ability to enforce, or even just the fact of myself as a citizen having a hotline to call, or somebody to tell, something where there's increased resources where you can address the problem.
Addressing the issue.
Not,
Listen, we've had two sheriff's deputies in the city of Highland area get involved with teenagers in the Explorer program. No one is exempt from this, but all should be penalized very heavily for doing such. And people who are under color of authority are even worse off. Listen, folks, we've got a lot of problems out here, but the best way to solve them is to talk about them, get involved. I don't know what we'll end up doing with this vote. Folks, you've heard it. You've heard the passion from Ms. Rogan. You've heard the passion from our panel. It's going to be up to you, those of you who haven't voted, to go on and vote the way your conscience tells you. But I ask all of us, as men, as women, regardless of whether you're Republican, Democrat, or wishy-crat, you got to protect the kids. We have to. Our kids are it sounds so much of a cliche, but it's like all cliches. It's based on people that have repeated it many times. Our kids are our future.
The beauty of this is that we do have a female here. She's in the control room. She is in control. What?
Very good. Unfortunately, yes. So
this is kind of off the target, but in regard to your niece, recently I believe it was SB 9 just passed the legislature and the governor signed it, which could have an impact on the ability of your niece to be released, and I certainly hope that it does.
Yeah, after the election. Well, listen, we're sorry to hear that situation, but we're pleased to hear that you are on the case. We're pleased to hear that none of that has dampened your enthusiasm for seeking justice, and for all of that, we thank you. This is Empire Talks Back. I'm Wallace Allen. We're here on the case for truth and justice with the right information to help improve the situation. We're going to take a short break. We'll be coming back, and when we come back, we are going to, and thank you very much, Miss Lita, thank you. Hang in here, folks, because when you come back, we are going to break the bank. Good job, guys. Good job.
Hey, Wallace, I need to impose on
Impose, brother. I don't see how you could ever impose on me.
2.5 minutes.
We have a section
At the
there called
end of the show.
appointments, announcements at 10:55.
Well,
So 10:55.
I think that requesting 2.5 minutes at the end of the show could very well end up being not there. You see, this show gets heated up, and sometimes, and whoop, and you look up, and the end is there. I think that you ought to request that 2.5 minutes right now.
What I want to do is just let people know what they can do to help ensure the integrity of their vote.
Okay, let's do that now.
They can come and listen to the blues today and help them make a decision.
Hey, Wallace. So you're gonna signal me right before you come back home? Just go like
Yes.
that?
Okay. Yes. But you are taping it. You're taping this stuff here.
I'm taping this right now.
Okay. We're
But I
getting ready
don't
to
have
go
the
back
light
on.
Which one is lying? Which one do you think is lying? To get your boat. I think it's a T-Trek.
Okay, Curtis. Come on now. Special appearance
What, I'm your
by
pusher man?
special appearance by Mr. Curtis Mayfield, surrogate, Mr. Andrew Valiez. I guess he's not going to.
Not this one, no.
Not this one.
This one's sacred.
Plus,
This one's sacred.
plus, you know, who wants to say good moves? Yeah, who wants to say that? See, you're not supposed to say something like that. Boy, that's a great movie, though. I tell you, it was a fast time in Joliet, Illinois.
Hey, Wallace, we got a couple of things we gotta get off our chest.
One thing, though, we made a good point during the break, and we were finishing up our conversation on the election. And Mr. Lilly has some tremendous concerns about people being sure that their vote gets counted. And plus, he has an audience of people that know where to find him. And we'd like to give him a chance to, clear the table.
All right, thanks, Wallace. We're going to do this really quick. There's a whole lot to say. These are the bottom lines on the situation. You can vote all day long. However you vote, if you're voting electronically, your vote is subject to not being counted very easily and in such a clandestine fashion that you won't even know it. Now, the first thing is, this goes back to the times when Lyndon Johnson was taking ballots out in the back in West Texas and destroying them and all this kind of stuff. But it's way more sophisticated than that now. All right, if you're voting electronically, do not vote electronically. These are the simple things you can do. Do not vote electronically. Do not vote with touch screens or anything like that.
So what do you do?
What you do is you request a provisional ballot and you go to the polling place on election day. Do not vote absentee. Do not vote early on election day. There's so many reasons for that. Can't get into it right now. Because we don't have time.
But if you're going to vote Tuesday, and one of the ways that Jamal Lilly is suggesting that you can assure your vote will be counted is to make it paper, and that you can ask, no matter what polling booth you attend, to make your vote be a paper vote.
Correct.
Okay, and that paper vote also gives you a receipt, I believe.
Correct.
Okay, and that receipt shows who you voted for.
Not only that, but the paper vote, pen and ink on paper, not the hanging Chad punch card kind of paper, but pen and ink on some sort of paper. All right. If there's a problem, all that's going to happen is it's going to be rescanned. All right, and you can always refer back to the source documents in terms of an audit, and you will have an audit result that will have integrity. That's one deal, all right? The deal also is you have to make sure that the information is being sent to the right place and counted by the right people. People have a right to go down to their registrar's office on election night and request to know how the votes are being counted. They will try to bar you at first, but there are statutes that you can cite that will allow them to make them let you in. So just call me if you want all that information.
Well, what are you looking to do once
what
you get
you're looking to do is you're looking to ensure that the registrar, him or herself, is included in the vote calculation and tabulation and compilation process. Most times that is not taking place because the electronic voting machines contain source codes that are proprietary, and the proprietary information is intellectual property. Therefore, the registrar themselves cannot be in the room when the actual votes are being tabulated.
So we'd like to call and be sure that
therefore, there is no public oversight. It's completely private. We want the public oversight.
So in the county of San Bernardino and the county of Riverside, is that the case?
That is what is taking place.
That the registrar is not in there?
The registrar is not part of the vote tabulating process.
Well, we're going to have to check that out and come on the radio on somebody's program tomorrow morning and verify that, because that's a pretty strong statement.
That's a true statement.
Yes.
Yeah, the source code.
What I'd like for us to do tomorrow, if we can remember to do this, and I don't see why we can, is to get the registrar of voters on the phone and get our morning show people on the phone and discuss this tomorrow morning on the KCAA morning show. Matter of fact, if we could come get up and come down and kind of bogart the show, I'm sure that Paul would be glad to see us. He'd pretend to be anyway.
Okay.
All right, so let's do that. Let's come down tomorrow morning and work on that.
Vote with pen, ink, paper. Do not vote electronic. And show up and ask how your votes are being counted.
Boy, Paul, those guys from that bank, they're just so happy right now.
You know what? Let me say something real quick about that. Here's an analogous situation. News Election Service. It was created in 1964 by all the major networks at the time. NBC, ABC, CBS, blah, blah, blah. CNN's in there now. Fox is in there now. It was changed to Voter News Service a few years ago. They didn't get it right. And then they changed it to something I just found. National Election Tool is what it's called now. All the same thing, and it's just like MERS with the banks. It's the same deal. What they've done is they've taken something that's supposed to be pen and ink on paper, and they've electronicized it, if that's a word.
Digitized.
Well, not even digitized. They've made it so that the information that's coming from the field goes all into one centralized location, becomes placed in an electronic form that can be easily manipulated, and then it's reported back out to everybody so it's the same. So there's no discrepancy. So nobody questions election results. Yet, the registrar will tell you the actual results don't come up for weeks sometimes.
I will
after
tell
the
you.
Actual election is held.
Journalism is not what it used to be.
Right, so all I want to say, because I already took them on 2.5 minutes, the bottom line is people do not vote electronically and check to see how your votes are being counted. That's all the time we got to deal with that today.
Wow.
One comment on top of that.
Please.
When you vote electronically, they actually count the vote the way they set the electronic impulse to go. So they will in fact count it correctly, but they will count it correctly in terms of what they want, not what you put.
There's a guy named Cobb that testified in front of the House Judiciary Committee in '04 in front of John Conyers. He was the chair at the time, and he showed where the people programming the voting machines for ES&S and Diebold actually program into the source code to register a result in the actual record of whatever the opposite selection was. So in other words, if you voted for Al Gore on a touchscreen, the machine would actually calculate that as a vote for George Bush, and it was programmed in there on purpose by the people that created
and
the
was
source
it programmed to do it on every 15th vote or 40th vote or on every vote?
It was programmed to do it on every vote.
Oh my goodness, I don't believe it.
Not every vote.
No,
that's too stupid.
Every machine had the same source code.
I'm just saying, that's too stupid. That's easily... Mr. Evans, how are you, my brother? Are we going to be able to get on these banks at all today? I mean, because this vote thing is, you know,
That's a different topic. Let's not do that. We'll just do it tomorrow.
Yeah, we're going to do the vote thing tomorrow. We're going to come into the show in the morning. Mr. Evans, I was just asking what direction where you're going to take us.
Well, let me say a quick word.
No, let's let it drop. Let's let it drop.
Wow, because he's raising something that doesn't...
Of course it is. The idea is...
We'll talk about it
if they can cheat, if one side can cheat, the other side should be able to cheat. They know what
it's not either side. It's the controllers of the machine.
Right,
It's the ones who own the intellectual property.
Right, it's not...
Let's go on to the next phase.
It's not a partisan deal where Obama's people are doing this and Romney's people are doing that.
Should we go
and
rush
so
these
it'll balance out.
Should we ride on these guys?
Absolutely. Yeah,
We should ride on them? You know where they are? Let's get their address. Let's tell everybody
We're
where they live.
we're gonna become drive-bys now?
No, not a drive-by. We're going to stop in, brother.
Oh, we're gonna stop in. Okay.
Those things you
Mr.
see on the
Evans.
video are anything else.
Listen, it is time for a break. I'm going to ask us. I'm going to ask us to skip the break. There's something very critical I think that we should talk about, because we often miss these things that are happening right next to us inside the room with us because of the things that appear to be coming at us from across the distance. We have, as we spoke earlier, Mr. King came in, started accusing these churches of doing things, the banks doing things to the churches, and being the kind of person that I am, I just can't believe that the banks or the churches would stand to let the banks do this to them. And I'm hoping that because the churches are so united and the people are so convinced and working together, that the banks have finally done the wrong thing and picked on the wrong folk, and the folk are going to come back together and take their money. Well, no. What happened with the bank?
Well, I'm gonna rather than say banks, I'm gonna keep this a little narrower.
One bank.
And I'm gonna refer to Broadway Federal Bank. Currently, Broadway Federal Bank is acting in violation of the law. They agreed to a cease and desist order with the Office of Thrift Supervision back in September of 2010.
Do you have to agree with the cease and desist order from the thrift company?
No, they agreed to it. They could have been imposed. However, they agreed to it.
Okay.
And they were also, their service corporation was also suspended by the state of California. And that suspension even moved over to the point that they cannot even assign the action to a third party to foreclose. So what's happened here is we have 59 banks that we are aware of currently.
59 churches.
59 churches that we are aware of now that are being foreclosed on, have been foreclosed on, or sold already
By
this institution
that has been
and done it illegally, right? And that they're continuing to pursue this action.
okay. With this, Andrew says he's got some information on this. What's illegal about what they're doing that's different from illegal about what banks have been doing, or do we want to go that far? What's illegal about what Broadway Federal has been doing, or is doing now regarding foreclosures?
Okay, well, bust out your stopwatch. I'm going to get this done in less than 90 seconds. All right, first and foremost, the OTS cited the bank for, quote, unsafe or unsound practices that resulted in deterioration of asset quality, ineffective risk management practices, excessive concentrations of credit, inadequate oversight and supervision of the lending function, and inadequate liquidity planning. Okay, in English, for everybody else, that means that the bank was being poorly managed. It doesn't matter what they were doing, they were not doing it properly, and they were issued the cease and desist by the Office of Thrift Supervision. Again, in English, that's under the Department of the Treasury. That's a federal agency. They were told to stop all activity, period, with respect to foreclosing on property, as well as renegotiating and extending new loans.
Could I interrupt you? Because you know I'm a defender, an advocate. I mean, this is a black bank. You mean to tell me white banks doing that kind of stuff?
Oh, of course there are. Yeah, they're getting sued too.
Yeah.
But that's making the bigger news. This is not making the bigger news yet. The reason
it's going to make some news here if they jumped on 59. The churches that they're doing this with were, I would assume, black churches.
And Latino. But the thing is that no one was exempt. Everybody was
treated as crooked as
the same way. So I'm not done with my 90 seconds because I got interrupted. In any case, moving right along. Exactly. Moving right along. The other issue is when you take out a mortgage, folks, way out there in Radio Land, when you take out a mortgage, there's this thing that's called a deed of trust. That's just a glorified lien. But the thing is that there has to be an independent third party that has no gain in whether in either side of this. The thing is that this bank, they went and they created their own, quote, third party entity that is, as Jamal has written here and Celeste has spoken too, they have lost their ability to function in the state of California. They're under suspended status, which means they cannot be doing business in California at all.
You mean they can't even take in new bank accounts?
The service corporation.
The service corporation,
which is
not the
listed as
bank.
the trustee on the deed of trust.
On all the deeds that were created in regard to these actions were owned by their service company trust, which is Broadway Service Corporation,
which is illegal because that person under California law is supposed to be that trustee. You have a trustor, a trustee, and a beneficiary. The trustor are the churches themselves, each individually. The trustee is this Broadway Service Corporation, and the beneficiary is Broadway federal bank.
So Broadway's daddy told them that they are no longer eligible to involve themselves in the foreclosure and servicing of mortgages. But they've said, well, daddy, these guys don't know any better, and I'm going to go get my money from them anyway. And what is daddy saying? You know, since they were put and told not to do this by the Department of Banking, so the Thrift Association.
That's just it. Daddy doesn't know about this yet. And that's why we're talking about it.
Oh, did somebody have Daddy's phone number?
Daddy don't know.
I got the line here.
That's
That's
at the
No.
U.S. Treasury.
at the U.S. Treasury, and
Office of
so
Treasury.
of these 59 churches, I suppose now that I understand they have came to your attention, Mr. King, because of your advocacy, etc., etc. Tell us about that. How come they caught your attention?
Well, actually, they came to my attention through my sister. My sister and her next door neighbor, who happened to be an attorney, and the attorney was handling one of the cases for the churches. And she was talking to my sister, and my sister said, "You need to talk to my brother."
She was going to pre-arrange bail because she was getting ready to go to court and raise hell on this thing, right?
So anyway, she came to me as the Congress of Racial Equality California, and we immediately began to address it.
That's what he said.
Okay, so where do we go with this, gentlemen?
You know,
I mean, once again, my question is,
let me
how
point out-
exclusive is this? Is this something that is only happening with that bank and servicing organization?
No,
Is
this
it happening with others?
This
It's
is
happening with
systemic.
yeah, it's systemic. But there's something else though that's really key here though, and it just happens to do with this specific community, and it has to do with the fact that this bank primarily deals within its own community and within the Latino community that is living in the southern part of the Los Angeles County, and this is part of a gentrification move to remove the people out of the community, as well as they are doing it in violation of the law so that they can sustain themselves. Because if they do not do this, they will collapse as an institution. And they are selling not selling. They're assigning the right to do the foreclosure to an outside agency that is beyond the borders of California, and doing so, they were trying to avoid this suspension order.
Tax services.
Would the Kamala not? She's trying to get
Unaware, but not for long.
Yeah.
now with this arranging that they're apparently doing to escape the laws. Does that sound like organized crime? Or are they in a
You
position
bet.
to be
Absolutely.
placed on that? Do they know this, or are they simply following the procedures they've seen with the other banks
They're
that they're?
following suit with what they've seen the larger banks get away with.
By the way, one additional item with respect to
So they're
Broadway.
not leading this
I'll
charge.
tell you what, though.
They're-
I'll
you
tell
know,
you what, there are some elements of this that are egregious.
because you know, L.A. was
Yeah, that
was,
are
was
really-
credited with being the
They're really
reason for crack cocaine on the planet. I don't want that bank to be the reason for bank failure or bank.
No, that's not what anyone's saying.
They all mean a
What we're
different
saying
bank.
is that this particular
That they're following a pattern.
This particular bank, the reason why it's so egregious is because they've been actually found guilty of actual crimes. The personnel in the bank have been found guilty of actual crimes, banned from the financial services industry, and cash fine out of his own pocket.
Yeah, and I think Ms. Lita just made a good point. So we
Nobody
got people.
from any banks are going to jail. It doesn't
Well-
matter whether it's that.
Well,
That's not
I'm not-
applicable. That's not applicable.
That's
in
not
this
applicable
case.
here.
that's not why we're trying to. That's
Yeah.
not even what we're
That-
trying to do.
Yeah.
The deal also is what Celeste brought up, that prime real estate down there in South LA is strategically situated for so many reasons, commercial and otherwise. That is what they want, and the church is an anchor type of property there that provides services and provides.
It provides cohesiveness to
Correct.
a community.
Correct.
And when you destroy the church base, you destroy the community.
Correct. And that's the destabilization that they always do when they want resources, anywhere in the world.
Yeah.
Singing to
But the real the worst part of it is it's a bank that was chartered to do things positive and productive and constructive for the community, and the Community Reinvestment Act requires them to do things like that, and they've been found wanting on that for the last
given we only have 45 seconds,
I
I'm
think
going to push on
I
it here.
think all of the banks are lacking on their community support. Yeah, we're about out of time. How much time do I have in there?
None.
We got about a minute? Okay.
Got 60 seconds.
Close it out.
Okay, let's Andrew, give me 15 seconds of what you got to say.
Oh, it's going to take more than 15 seconds.
Okay,
Thank everybody.
Okay, Jamal, thank you much. Celeste, everybody, thank you much for getting in here. The Blues again at Raquel's at 3:30. The Blues at Raquel's at 4:30.
Yeah, last time my brother Tweety.
134 South Riverside Drive. Always the quickest hour on radio. Never enough time to finish, folks. But I tell you what, you might want to go join us on the website at wssnews.com. We will be continuing this conversation for another 5, 10, maybe 15 minutes. We'll be right there available for you. Hang in there, folks.
How's that working?
Huh?
More 5, 10.
Well, we have some video that he's able to take that will go on to the
I like them shoes. I was waiting for him to take them off.
We could keep going on, but he turned it off.
Well, no, don't turn it off.
No, I just turned off the light. The camera is
Andrew.
Yeah. So what are we with the banks? What are we doing?
Andrew,
Yes.
come here. What's your info?
Right there, hang on.
Why don't you have a cleaner for yourself? She told me she went in the house the other day.
Let's finish the conversation, guys.
Andrew.
I like that. Just my imagination. Yeah.
Jimmy,
You get my tune on that.
Mr. Vyas III, bring your stuff. The show's not over. He puts the rest of the show on the website. Bring your stuff. We're going to continue the conversation.
These are what's called outtakes.
What he's doing goes on the website.
Outtakes.
Yeah. So where are we at with
That's what he said when you walked away.
There we go.
15 more minutes.
It's all yours.
No, I heard him. It's just, are we going to talk more of this Prop 38 or 35 nonsense? Or are we going to do something substantive?
Well,
what I need for you guys?
Everybody gets a chance to talk.
The only thing.
No,
the 35 is over, but we were talking about the
What do we
the
do?
banks.
We're talking about the
What are
banks.
people same way with the 35? We said that
Well, I think we
He's
came to.
recording.
Yeah, I think we came to a reasonable conclusion in regard to the proposition,
right.
and that is that it doesn't effectively address what they wanted to do in the community.
Be more vigilant.
Yeah.
Same thing with this banking. I think that I don't know to what level the community can be more vigilant with the banking circumstance.
Well, you know, there's a whole education factor in terms of understanding what you're doing when you go in, to the negotiations for a loan, and then when you begin to realize that most of these, like in this specific situation, most of these bankers and the people that surround them are really, really novices when it comes down to, making these financial agreements, and. Like most
People
people,
trust the bank. I mean, they walk in the bank, they figure the guy knows what he's doing. Bank's been around ever since.
nobody trusts the bank.
Well,
Plenty of people trust the bank.
No,
that's
nobody
what
trusts the
I'm gonna
bank.
tell you.
If they did, they wouldn't run on them.
When's the last time you seen a bank?
Well,
That's off
it's
topic.
been a while. Isn't it?
Right. So they trust it, must trust
People
it.
trust them.
Well, there'll be a run on Broadway Federal pretty quick.
Back in San Bernardino. Hey,
Anyway, let's finish framing the situation with the information, and then I'll give you what my opinion is.
All right. Okay.
on Broadway Federal.
Yeah, he's got some more info he wanted to
Oh,
read
go
into the
ahead.
record.
Yeah. Read it. Yeah.
You being good?
Well, what I wanted to get on air was that
It'll be online.
there have been egregious issues, but what no one has bothered to really pay attention to in whether at the OTS or the Office of the Comptroller of the Currency, let alone here in California, is the fact that the officers has recently had a shuffle, but it's all the same people. And the chairman and the CEO of the company, Paul C. Hudson, he's now in charge. He's now been shuffled around. He's now in charge of, get this, their legal department. He's their chief legal counsel. So, wait a minute here a second. You mean to tell me that the key culprit, probably the mastermind or the architect of this whole issue, and maybe not, maybe I'm giving him too much credit.
I would think that you're giving my cousin too much credit.
No, there we go. Giving him too much credit. Nevertheless, he was at the helm while all of this was going on. And so, first of all, there needs to just be a mass firing of everyone over there in order to
It's obvious
save.
to me from what you said that Paul is being used to be the foil for this, because if he was knowledgeable, he probably.
Well,
so let's discuss it. Would have straightened it out.
Well, the thing
So
is,
something
getting
that he
away.
didn't know about.
Right, getting away from the personalities.
And then getting placed in another position so he could continue to get paid is a natural position for. I mean, something went wrong on my estate, so I'll move to another position, continue to get paid, so you guys can straighten this out.
Right, getting away from the personalities. Let's focus on the company itself.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
The personalities really don't mean much.
Right.
The company does, and what the company.